Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining PortaOne webinar. We will be talking about new features of PortaSwitch maintenance releases 111, 113. Your microphones are muted, but if you have any questions, please feel free to type them in Q&A section of this Zoom call. This webinar is going to be conducted by my colleague, Svitlana Melnychuk, our project manager, and myself, Mike Kidik, product officer at PortaOne. So as I mentioned, we'll be talking about new features of PortaSwitch, but Svitlana will also provide an update on further development of PortaPhone. We also have a few new modules on our Add-on Mart, and at the end of this webinar, I'll also have a special offer for you. So please stay tuned and let us begin with new features. So the first one is prepaid bundles. We introduce them mostly for mobile market because prepaid is still very popular in mobile markets. The basic idea is pretty much the same as the old volume discount plans. You have multiple services like voice calls, SMS, internet, and you bundle them together and sell it at some price, right? But there are some fundamental differences between old volume discount plans and prepaid bundles. So let me explain. The first one is that when the bundle period is over, it can be renewed, and the renewal happens at the same moment for all services included in the bundle. So if we take, for example, quotas in the old volume discount plans, you could have in a single VDP, you could have multiple quotas, like a monthly quota combined with a weekly quota, combined even with a daily quota, for example. You could have different quotas with different periods. And those quotas will be restarted each on a separate time frame. With bundles, you cannot do it. With these new bundles, you just define a period of validity, and it's defined in days because this is what is typically used in prepaid bundles in mobile market. So the bundle can be valid for 30 days, a bundle can be valid for 7 days, for example. And when this period is over, if the bundle needs to be renewed, all the services are renewed at the same moment. So after 7 days, for example, if you had a package which includes 10 gigabytes of data, 100 minutes, 100 SMS, and it's valid for 7 days, once the 7 days are over, it can be renewed, and if it is renewed, the user will get 10 gigabytes, 100 minutes, 100 SMS for the next 7 days. The other fundamental difference is that the fee for the package, for the bundle, the renewal fee, is included inside the bundle. Because with old volume discount plans and with quotas in particular, you typically had to use a separate subscription together with the bundle to charge for these bundled services. With new bundles, it's not the case. The fee is defined inside the bundle. You don't need anything extra. And the fee is charged whenever the bundle is activated. Okay. I mentioned renewal already, and there is also a difference in the renewal mechanism. With the old quotas, for example, they would renew automatically once the period of the quota is over, no matter what. So quotas were typically used with postpaid customers, right? Because the quota is renewed automatically, and then the charge for the service usage will be included in the next invoice. With prepaid bundles, it's a different story. If you enable automatic renewal, which is optional, the system would, at the end of the period, for example, at the end of the 7 days, the system would check if the prepaid balance is sufficient for renewal. If the balance is 0 or it's insufficient, nothing happens. There is no automatic renewal. So the user doesn't get a new service if they don't have enough balance. But if the balance is sufficient, the renewal happens automatically. And this is a great way to improve the cash flow with prepaid users, because sometimes they forget to two top-ups, they forget to activate the renewal, and so on, so on. This way, the renewal would be happening automatically as long as they have sufficient balance. And bundling multiple services is always a good idea because you can bundle some popular with less popular services, and this way you can maximize your profits. So that's all about new bundles. The next feature is a new designer, visual designer for invoices. You are probably well aware that we have a built-in layout designer in PortaSwitch, and it's been available, if I'm not mistaken, for at least 20 years now. That's quite an old piece of technology, which is pretty much impossible to maintain these days, and also the interface looks quite dated. So we would like to get rid of that layout designer. Now, instead of developing our own tool for designing invoices, we decided to integrate with online services because there are a ton of companies who are specializing on developing such tools. Basically, a visual designer, when you can design your template, if you like, and you can get a pixel-perfect PDF file, with all the colors, images, fonts, and stuff according to your liking. Usually, these tools allow you to not just to have some static, image shown in that PDF file, but they also allow you to push some data through the API. And that's what we did when we integrated with CraftMyPDF. We use their proprietary API to get most of the billing data from PortaBilling fed into CraftMyPDF, and you can reuse the data in your templates that you design. And when the actual PDF is generated, it will include that PortaBilling data. So the module for CraftMyPDF is available on Add-on Mart, but we don't want you to be limited by a single online service for designing PDFs. If you have some other service that you fancy that you would like to use, please get in contact with us, and we will develop another Add-on Mart module, with integration with that particular service to get your invoices, designed. The idea is to make this process of designing invoices as simple, as straightforward as possible, and also to use a user-friendly, easy tool to design those invoices. Now, the next feature is branding of PortaBilling web interface. As most of you are aware, this was available in the old web interface. It was a bit cumbersome to configure, but you could have your interface branded. And that's what we reintroduced, if you like, in PortaBilling on the new administrator interface. You can also brand the interface of resellers and distributors. And the configuration of this branding is much simpler now. Instead of going to some, local files and setting up some things in configuration files and so on, it's now available on the web interface of PortaBilling. So for administrators, you can go to the company info, and this is where you can do the typical stuff like upload an HTML file or an image, which you want to use as a brand panel on top of the interface. That's exactly like it used to be with the old interface, but we also introduced a new feature. If you want the interface colors to follow, the colors of your brand, or if you are just tired of the blue PortaBilling interface and you would like something else, feel free to check out this feature. We introduced color themes, so basically you can choose from a predefined set of color themes, and you can switch from one to another. And this is a great tool not only to increase your brand awareness, to have your brand panel on top of the interface, reminding your resellers and distributors that, hey, you are using the platform of such and such company or of such and such service, But also this can be used to eliminate human errors. We've heard a few cases when engineers of our administrators of our customers thought that they were logged in into the staging platform, and they made some changes thinking that they are playing around with staging system, while in reality they were logged into the production system and accidentally changed something on the production system. So you could use this tool just to differentiate between the staging interface and production interface just by changing colors, or maybe even putting some special panel on top of the interface. The next feature is a bit technical. As most of you are probably aware, when there is a voicemail or a fax message left for a person, usually, at least most of IP phones would have some blinking indicator that there is a message waiting for you. And there is a message waiting indication service in PortaSwitch. And it used to be a single instance service, but now it can run on any processing node of PortaSIP cluster, or actually on every processing node of PortaSIP cluster. So it's scalable, and it means that if you have a large customer base, when there are many voicemails and fax messages coming to your customers, this service can cope better with such a big load. So there would be no delays now between the message left for a particular person and the moment a notification is received by the IP phone. To improve the situation even further, we introduced a new option in the configurator where you can decide whether the system should send these notifications to all user agents, to all CPEs, to all IP phones, or just those IP phones which subscribe for this specific type of notifications. So if there is a soft phone which just doesn't have a special, indicator on the interface and it doesn't handle those MWI notifications, if there are some IP phone models which don't need those notifications, you can fine-tune. You can make the service used only in those cases when it's really needed. The next couple of features are designed for cloud PBX customers, for call center customers. So let me cover them one by one. We introduced hand group supervisors, call center supervisors. So basically, this is a new type of users. You know that some time ago we introduced customer individuals. So that's for your cloud PBX customers. It's a business customer. They have multiple people configuring PBX, checking invoices, making payments, and so on. So now each staff member of your customer can have separate credentials to log into the self-care portal. That self-care portal can be our cloud PBX portals that we provide, can be something that you developed in-house or you outsource to somebody. It doesn't really matter. The main point is that there are now multiple logins available to customers. And when you create a customer individual, you can choose now a separate role, which is called supervisor, and you can link that individual to a particular extension, making that extension a supervisor of particular hand group. From that moment on, the supervisor can also log into the Cloud PBX portal. Their access will be limited only to those hand groups that they manage. So they don't see the full Cloud PBX configuration, only limited hand groups and limited number of extensions. And they can modify hand group settings, like set up a call queue, change the ringing strategy inside of the hand group. They can also change settings of extensions, which are members of those hand groups, and so on and so on. So these are like additional limited administrators for specific hand groups. We hope that this will make your offer to call center customers, to potential call center customers, more attractive, and you will be able to increase your sales. Now, speaking about another feature called parking, some of you may say, hey, wait a second. PortaSwitch has been supporting call parking for more than a decade now. Why would you, speak about call parking? It's an old feature. Yes and no. The call parking that we have currently in the system I would say it's not very user-friendly. It's okay. It is used by a lot of users, but it's not very user-friendly in terms that when you park a call, you need to dial a specific feature code, or you need to dial a prefix, if you like, followed by extension, and that's how you park the call. So you have to remember the prefix. Also, when you need to retrieve a call, like you are notified that there is a call waiting for you, on particular extension, you have to dial the specific feature code to retrieve a call. So again, the person needs to remember those feature codes. We introduced call parking, which allows end users to park and retrieve calls by a single key press or button press. You know that many phones have special keys or buttons. Different manufacturers call them differently. Programmable keys, line keys, side buttons. There are different names. But those buttons on the side, they have indicators, and they are mostly used for BLF, just to see if extension is busy or not. But those buttons can often be programmed to work as call parking slots. So basically, when you want to park a slot, you just look at those keys, you see which one is not occupied, you press a button, and the call is parked. Then the other person gets notified that there is a call waiting for them. They see that there is a park call on line number 1. They just press a button, the call is retrieved, and they start talking to the caller. Of course, this way of call parking also has some limitations. For example, you cannot have more call parking slots than there are physically buttons on the IP phone. Yeah, so it has some limitations as well. But I believe this is a more user-friendly way of handling calls, I mean, of parking and retrieving calls. So again, we hope that this new call parking mode will make your cloud PBX offer more attractive for potential customers. We introduced a new panel on the web interface for DAD management. You know that when you offer DADs to your customers, you can end up with quite a big DAD inventory. I'm not talking about thousands, probably even tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of DADs. And whenever you need to assign, let's say 50, 100 DADs or allocate those DADs to a customer, or when you need to move DADs from one vendor batch to another, or if you need to change the pricing batch for the DAD, you can use this panel. We also have a pool of DADs. That's basically a way to share DADs between your direct customers and customers of your resellers. So you don't have to micromanage DADs. You don't have to kind of, allocate DADs to resellers and keep track how many DADs they have left, then later add more DADs. No, you just put all DADs into the pools, and they are grabbed from that pool automatically whenever the customer needs a new DAD. So again, putting DADs into the pool or removing them from the pool can be done through this group operations. We believe it should simplify DAD management for you. And the last point on my list is Add-on Mart for resellers. So the idea is that we are opening up Add-on Mart for to your resellers. They can now sign up separately, and they can activate whatever modules they need for their business without bothering your administrators. Don't worry, the existing Add-on Mart modules will continue working the way they are. So if you set up sub-module and you allowed your resellers to use that functionality, it's fine, it will stay like it is. But starting from maintenance release 113, new modules will be developed like this. So the modules that I mentioned for Craft My PDF, for invoice designing, is going to be available to resellers as well. And we've heard about cases when, PortaSwitch owner needed one piece of functionality and resellers needed another piece of functionality. But we've heard about several cases like that. An example could be, for example, if you are in the US, you run your taxation through SureTax, but your reseller would love to do their taxation through CSI, and that's a module in the Add-on Mart. Or, for example, you have your invoice templates designed in some external tool, so you just upload those HTML files into the system, while your reseller would like to give a try to this Craft My PDF new service. So with this new approach, your resellers don't have to come to you asking you for, hey, could you open this functionality for me? Could you do this for me? And so on. They can sign up directly with Add-on Mart, and they can activate whatever modules they need on their own. And now I'll pass the microphone to Svitlana, and she will explain about new things with PortaPhone.
Hello, everyone. I'll continue the presentation, and I will share with you our progress with the PortaPhone development. In our latest iteration of PortaPhone, we're excited to introduce a list of enhancements. The first one is a better connection stability. We worked hard to make sure your connection stays strong, especially when you switch between Wi-Fi and mobile data. Plus, we added some extra ways to reconnect if your network drops. And we have like a smoother publishing process. We've been busy getting new apps published for you. In the last couple of weeks, we launched about 8 new applications. We also made our internal processes and like client instruction better, so things now running smoother. And we figured out the ways how to speed up the review process with Apple and Google teams. And we have some small improvements on the interface of the application. So we got our first feedback on transfer functionality and improve it a little bit. And plus we added more status updates. So right now inside the application, you can check what is happening with your connection and see the status there. With these improvements, we're sure PortaPhone will keep giving your clients a great experience that meets their needs. And let's move to our next topic, which focused on new Add-on Mart models. It's 2 new models. In April, Add-on Mart will introduce a new Omni-channel CX platform model. It will be developed in collaboration with CloudPhone. CloudPhone's Omni-channel CX platforms offers adaptable white-label omni-channel digital contact center software. This platform also includes a dialer tailored to agents' use. And this dialer will be using the PortaPhone backend, and the development of this model is being handled by the CloudPhone team, and they're using PortaPhone API for integration. Additionally, in April, Add-on Mart will unveil another new model. Is the WebRTC dial-in widget designed for CRM systems? Mike, could you please select another slide? Yeah, so this will be addition to CRM systems, and the first one will be for HubSpot, then for Zoho and others. This tool will be developed by the PortaOne company. Similar to the integration with CloudPhone, this model will use PortaPhone backend and PortaPhone API. The idea is to build in WebRTC technology inside the CRMs and to make calls right from the CRMs. So these 2 new models in Add-on Mart can expand your business opportunities and offer additional possibilities for your clients. Now back to Mike.
Thank you, Svitlana. So let me briefly touch on what we are working on what our plans, short-term plans for PortaSwitch. We are currently developing new feature reseller individuals, which is very similar to customer individuals. Those are like additional logins for employees of reseller, additional credentials, additional for other staff members. And this will effectively replace the CC staff portals that we used to have on the old web interface. The other one, we've been developing a mobile self-care portal for quite a while, but as we knew, mobile operators prefer to have dedicated applications, mobile applications, not just a portal. And we started to build that application using that portal. We already have a version for Android. It hasn't been published yet, but it's work in progress. And we're also working on creating an iOS application. So basically, what you saw as a self-care mobile portal will be available as a standalone application. We also plan somewhere in summer to replace tariff upload. And that would be basically the last piece of the old web interface once we replace it with a new tariff upload, and we already have a design ready for it. We just need to implement it. Basically, we will finally be able to remove the old interface. I mean, on the level of the source code, we'll be able to remove all the interface from PortaSwitch. So these are last pieces, like CC stuff and existing tariff uploads, the last pieces of the old web interface. And layout designer that I mentioned earlier is also the piece of the old web interface. So don't worry, this will happen. Not going to happen like tomorrow. Probably it will happen after maintenance release 115. That would be maybe the last maintenance release was old interface still included in the source code. We are continuing working on PortaBilling API 2.0. Those of you who missed my previous webinar, I'll just briefly explain. This is a new version of the API, which is not backward compatible with existing API, but it has better naming, better structure. It has better documentation, better description for fields, and so on. So we've introduced it half a year ago, and for this half year, we've been adding new modules like customers' accounts. I mean, not modules, new methods for managing customers' accounts, products, and many other. Currently, for example, I'm reviewing new methods for destination group set management. So this is work in progress. As I mentioned during the previous webinar, this is going to take at least a year to cover all the functionality of PortaBilling with the new API. And as usual, we'll be happy to work on feature requests or if you have any business ideas to launch about new services, or if you have something missing for your existing services, please do contact us. We'll be happy to work on any customizations, any new features for you, together with you. We will also be exhibiting on multiple trade shows, the next one being GITEX in Marrakesh at the end of May. So if you would like to meet PortaOne in person and you're planning to go to one of those trade shows, please let us know and please stop by our booth. We'll be very happy to see you. And now, the special offer that I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar. We would like to collect ideas from you related to IoT business. I will explain what I mean, but let's start with why IoT. What is the relation PortaOne has to IoT? Recently, we built a completely new device for IoT services called IoT Meal. And in IoT world, there are tons of new devices, sensors, beacons, controllers, different devices. And usually those devices come with a slot for a SIM card, and they can connect to the network and send over the information. And if you have some IoT customers and you need just a single device for them, it's fine. Like you insert the SIM card and the device sends whatever data is needed or receives whatever data is needed over the network. But if you have some business case where multiple devices are needed, multiple different models, maybe even different brands, it's not economical to have every device communicate directly with the cloud. And this is where IoT Mill comes into play. So IoT Mill was designed to be deployed as autonomous device. It has a battery included, and that battery will run for at least a year. So you don't have to come to the customer premises to replace the device. And the idea is that it can use Bluetooth to collect data from different IoT devices, process the data, and send it over the network. It's very energy efficient. It tries to save as much energy as possible, and that's why it can run for at least a year on the battery. And obviously, the less frequent communications with the network are, the longer it can run on a single battery. But at least 1 year is guaranteed. And it can do, as I mentioned, some data processing. So for example, if a sensor like a pressure sensor or temperature sensor sends some information and IoT Mill sees that it's the same value as what you sent previously, it will not send that value over the network to the cloud. Doesn't make sense to spend that energy to send the data to the cloud. So it can skip that particular measurement and wait for the next one. Now, what we are asking you and what we would like to collect are business cases for IoT. So my colleague is sending you a link in the chat. Please follow that link and it will provide you with instructions. You basically just need to describe a business idea for IoT, like what kind of sensors, devices you have in mind, what could be used. And we will pick the best ideas where IoT Mill can be relevant. And for those ideas, we will give you a free business analysis session discussing that idea, discussing what is needed to launch that project, maybe some pieces, bits and pieces are missing, how to set up everything and so on, based on the experience we have with some of the projects already. We will also provide one IoT Mill box free of charge. And we'll do testing with whatever sensors, devices you develop. And if there are some changes on the level of Bluetooth protocol required, we will also do that. But we understand that, no matter how great sensors or devices you design and no matter how good they connect with IoT Mill, you still need connectivity to send the data over the network, right? So we are talking with several potential partners. We would like to provide SIM cards for connectivity as well. We need to talk to different companies in different regions, so it takes a while. But the idea is that since connectivity is mandatory for such services to work, we would like to get some other companies involved in this project as well and provide those SIM cards for IoT services. So please follow the link. Please fill in the questionnaire with your ideas, and let's be in touch. And now we'll have a Q&A session. So if you have any questions, please do type them in the Q&A box, not the chat, but in the Q&A box. It's just easier for us to follow up on these questions when they are in the Q&A section. So there are already some questions in the chat box, so I'll answer those. So the first question is whether there are any alerts when there is not enough credit for prepaid bundles to renew. The answer is we haven't gotten that far. We haven't gotten to the notifications and alerts yet. But we'll be happy to discuss that particular business case and add required alerts. It's not a big deal. It should be a minor development. There is also a question about the name of this external service for, as I understand it, for invoice design. It's called Craft My PDF. And the website is actually craftmypdf.com. So that's the external service for designing invoices. Any other questions? Okay, then I guess we're done for today. Thank you very much for participating, for listening to our webinar. Have a great day. Bye.
Thank you.